we as an industry have a challenge convincing the print service providers and the industry to back the trade shows?
I think this is our absolute responsibility to show the universe of print, different business models, how to probably partner and take the win-wins of every partnership. And this is, I think, a big tendency observed not only on the visitor side, but as well on the supplier side.
It's really a one-roof approach to a print expo or printing expo. Trying to put all technologies together and all segments of the market together in one spot.
Drupa was cancelled last week. Wow, technology sometimes just makes you thrown into something faster than you anticipated, because the music suddenly stopped and I was like, still like 30 seconds to go, but that's the beauty of live broadcasting, right, Andreas? We spoke about that yesterday.
Absolutely, yeah.
Totally agreed. So very warm welcome to you, Adrian. Great to see you. I was just about to say in person because you look so clear here, but I know it's not.
Not bad. A few kilometers away from you. Good morning.
Yeah, that's a few kilometers. That's true. It seems that we don't have so many attendees registered for the live session here, but don't worry, we will always get a lot of good views afterwards. So I think the purpose of this, and maybe this is actually not too bad, because we are going to talk about, of course, your role in Müller Martini, but also you took a great opportunity to go into virtual events. We're going to talk about that in a moment. I also think that you have the hassles of what to do when you have cancellations of trade shows. So, Adrian Mayr, before we talk about that, who are you and what do you do with Müller Martini?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation with you. First of all, I'm currently, my position at Müller Martini is head of product management and corporate marketing. I'm with Müller Martini almost 25 years now. I never thought it would turn out to be that long, but they always offered me new challenges, and therefore it was always interesting and amazing to work there.
So you still enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I still do. Exactly. I hope to be there until my retirement. So.
Oh, really? So it's not you don't hear so often from people that they are planning. I mean, you still look like a young man, Adrian. So
yeah, but then you have to wait the next 25 years.
Yeah, come on.
50 years you can get retired.
I mean, next year my first digit is a 5. So just to tell you that. So I started up as a field service engineer. Then I joined project management. Was in sales. My roots actually are in the mailroom business. So Andreas, you know, these large installations in the newspaper plants, and later on I was then moving over more into all areas of Müller Martini, and the last, let's say, 8 years, something like that, I spent in product management, and I'm leading these teams since 7 or 8 years now. And this year, as an additional challenge, I had the opportunity to take over the marketing department, which of course is closely working together with the product management. So it is, in my opinion, an ideal combination.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah, one of the things I can't help think about when you have your internal journey with Müller Martini over the years that you just spoke about. How, I mean, you have seen some of the changes in the industry. I mean, we had a financial crisis. Now we have a COVID-19 crisis. And how do you see the market is changing? Not so much from a product perspective, but more from a communications perspective. And yeah.
Well, it has changed a lot, actually. So both Müller Martini as a company, as well as our customers, have become much more agile, much more flexible. I think it was simply a requirement to do so. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here anymore. Mm-hmm. And those customers which probably didn't adapt, they are not here anymore, I would say. So communication is in many cases, much more informal, much faster. Of course, also the development of electronic media has attributed to this. But overall, also customer expectations, of course, have increased. And in former times, I mean, we have always had kind of projects, complex projects, which required a lot of consulting, a lot of expertise from our side. And on the other hand, in the past, we had a very large volume of our production was kind of standardized machines. This has shifted very much. So nowadays, we have more and more these projects, especially when it comes to processing in digital products, digital printed products. Then we talk about projects which require a complete consulting. You need to consult, to talk to the customer about imposition, about the pre-press process, down to the finished product. This is also a learning curve for us, or was a learning curve for us, because it requires different competencies. And I mean, I always say we need to be a solution provider and not a machine supplier. That's
That I think that is aligned very much with what also we experience. Andreas, you are one of the leading, as far as I know, leading persons in social media and how to use communication in general. So when you look at the challenges in the printing industry, and maybe also in relation to what Adrian just said, how do you think things are progressing in how the bigger corporates have to communicate with the customers in the future?
So in my view, we made big progress since the last Drupa in 2016, because at that time, a lot of people they felt a little bit strange with social media, because it's real time, real time. And everything you do is public in that. And in the meantime, I think a lot of, not only suppliers, so print service providers benefit from that. And actually, the learning curve is increasing, because of the fact that social media is not only about communication, it's about community building, it's about sharing ideas, it's very interactive, and at least it's good for any kind of sales process, because the information a salesperson has to communicate is already public. So he don't have to evangelize anymore. He can reference via links and so the content is there. And now the salesperson and the marketing person have to create a good storytelling. And this storytelling is not only is not only made for creating leads. It's really get intense, interactive, ongoing dialogue with your customers and your prospects. And I'm very happy that more and more print service providers around the globe follow that, and they really like and they learned how to deal with social media.
And Adrian, the reason why I asked Andreas this was actually a lead in, because as you said, the changes that you see from your customers in going into projects, and you have to take everything into considerations from imposition to the finished application. And you didn't say that, but I also take that some PSPs are a little hesitant to get the equipment as soon as they have signed. They want the equipment delivered right away, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially customers who are in this transformation of from the, let's call it, the traditional business into the digital business. I mean, they also lack the experience what it needs, and often they do not. Sometimes they do not see all the obstacles on their way. So it is important to have a close cooperation with these customers, so to follow them all the way down the road until the complete system is up and running.
The reason I'm asking this is because as the headline for this sessions today and yesterday is about the changes due to the fact that Drupa was cancelled for 21 as well. I think that one thing that reflects what you were saying right now is that the needs from PSPs and from the industry, from the media, from everybody is changing these years, not just because of the COVID-19, but also because of social media, as Andreas said. So I was thinking that when you, as a marketing responsible for Müller Martini, is looking at your options in how you communicate your products and services, you have of course advertising, you have your website, you have trade shows, and now you entered into a virtual trade show kind of thing, right? That is it seems from the outside seems to be a quite big step, because if you look at the Printing-expo.online, it's a really big 3D booth that you have rented there. So how did you get into that position, thinking of that?
Well, somehow it was a development out of all these events which happened this year. So the cancellation of Drupa, which made it impossible to present our planned new solutions to a wider audience. Then when COVID came, pretty soon we started to set up online demonstrations in our showroom. First very simple with handy filming and so, smartphone filming, but within a few weeks we had really professional audio and video equipment installed, and nowadays we are really able to have a professional, both in terms of quality of audio and video picture, professional demonstrations of our machines. And we feel that this is highly appreciated, of course, because of the travel restrictions. But I also have the impression that this is something which will stay. So some customers, not all customers, of course, but some customers will appreciate this possibility to get information about the machine. It is interactive, so they can ask all their questions and so on. They see what's going on in the showroom, and we had good success with that. So pretty soon after our first online demonstrations, we sold lines to China and to Taiwan, to customers which have not seen the equipment in live. So they had an online demonstration and they signed the contract, which is an indication to me that the concept works. And it is maybe the Asians are maybe a bit more open to these digital channels than, I would say, some Europeans or other areas, but it's definitely the way to go. And coming back to the online showroom, I mean, originally the idea was to have kind of a virtual booth, trade show booth, but then we saw additional benefit in basically virtualizing our showroom with all the equipment and integrate it into Printing-expo.online. And we took the first step there, so it's definitely not the end of the story. I feel in order to have this an attractive point of contact for potential interests, we really need to constantly add new features, add new content, because if the customers comes by twice and sees always the same stuff, then he doesn't over it.
Yeah. And when you look at your online presence, do you see that as an add-on to when we go back to physical shows, or do you see it more like a replacement?
No, I generally see always a coexistence of both formats, because I think there are some benefits of trade shows, physical trade shows, an online experience, no matter which channel cannot offer. The question is just, if we look at the tremendous efforts, the tremendous costs also, which are involved with physical trade shows or have been involved, part of physical trade shows in the past, the question is really how much additional leads, how much additional customer contact do you get for this money? Yeah.
And that is the ever-recurring question is, and that is one of the questions we have asked in every session so far, is also that what needs do the shows or the physical or the virtuals or whatever show we have, what needs do they serve, right? Because if you can sell to Asian customers without the need of being there, it means that the electronic communication channels have developed so much that at least it can be an additional channel, right?
Exactly. That's what I see it at the moment, as an additional channel in our attempt to get as many contacts, as many leads as possible to get our to get interest from our customer base. There is another thing which maybe also adds to this. I mean, we have our large traditional customer base. That's the customers which have Müller Martini machines installed for the last 50 years. So they know whom to call if they need a machine or if they are interested in a machine.
So you say that there's too little competition in the market?
No, we try not to become. We try to challenge ourselves, and there is still competition. I mean, we have some very good competitors out there which still challenge us quite a lot. But
so not only on the technology, but also on the communication part, I guess.
Absolutely. But what I wanted to say is that when it comes to finishing off digital printed products, the new market segments, there are customers out there which do not necessarily know Müller Martini, and these are typically customer segments which are very active on all kind of electronic communication channels. And from that point of view, I see this as a good alternative or a good add-on to reach out to these new customers. So we call it the new kids on the block, which are not so familiar with what Müller Martini can do for them.
I think that is exciting, and I think it's great. I think that, you know, if you in before COVID-19 or before this situation that we are in now, I think a lot of people thought of. I'm a little provocative now, so don't. It's not personal. It's more like. But if you should frame something, you could say that the iron makers, like a little bit like Müller Martini, like the Heidelbergs and the KBAs, and you know, this is like the big corporate, and you see them trade shows, and it's difficult, you know, to get. You cannot just walk in and get a conversation with the CEO of a company, right? And then you have on the other side, you have the HPs and the Hicons and you know the new vendors on the block that have a little bit more agile, or at least it looks like agile. It seems that now these groups of companies are merging into, not into companies, but merging into understanding that the communication tools have to be related to where people are instead of where people comes to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. I mean, that's maybe a leftover from the past where the market was very clear, and we knew our customers, they knew us. And now we have to find new ways to reach out to potential customers which we do not know yet. And of course, in that respect, it needs to be more direct. It needs to be faster. And I think we're currently taking a lot of attempts to strengthen these communication channels. We have intensively been active on LinkedIn when it came to the latest market introductions. That's things we did not do in the past. So yeah, it's really the transformation is fully underway, and I don't think one thing will completely replace the other. It will be a coexistence, as well as TV and radio coexist in some way, and yeah.
Even online channels like ours seems to have a little space in the place anyway, right? So
yeah, exactly.
How have you been able to? Because you spoke about that you have, of course, a legacy with a lot of existing customers. Are they following you also into the new channels, or is it more like two separate channels?
Oh, very diverse, very diverse. I also see that on the customer side, a lot has changed. I mean, in the past, when we had to discuss a layout, it was clear that we took the plane, flew over to the customer, visited the customer, discussed the layout, and flew back. Nowadays, and Skype, Zoom, Teams, and so that was, for many customers, they were not really familiar with it. And over the past year, that has changed a lot. So nowadays, it's for the customers, it's clear that many discussions can be held over via electronic channels, just a call. And I'm a bit referring to Europe now. I think US was always a bit different when I see there. I think also China has a different approach, but that's what I see from customers in Europe. And yeah, maybe a small side story in this respect. When we had the first lockdown, our sales manager wanted to to visit the customer in Germany for a negotiation. They were blocked at the border, went back to the office, negotiated the machine with the customer over Skype. So it worked out. Yeah.
I would like to bring Andreas into the conversation as well, because he has his the knowledge he has, and I have a lead into that one, because Adrian, when you communicate today, because one thing is that we move the communication to the electronic channels. Are you still communicating mainly the equipment and the what you sell, or are you also bonding to build communities and all these things? You can answer that, and then I think that Andreas might want to follow up on that one.
Yeah, I think that's something we are really at the starting point, to build up communities around a certain aspect of our business. So far, our communication is, I would say, not focused only on machines, but focused on our solutions, be it our services or our equipment solutions, to call it like this. But in community building also, that's something we are at the starting point. We try to make everything also to bring in more emotions. Especially when you look at our blogs, for instance, they cover a wide range of subjects. I mean, some of them are technical oriented. What's the best glue to use in a perfect binding? Such kind of.
I love these kind of subjects. That's so fantastic.
On the other hand, you have real life reports from our apprentices, for instance, which they now have very much a personal touch. And of course, our idea is that we convey a message to give Müller Martini also a bit personal face and a positive attitude of the readers towards Müller Martini. So we really try to play the different areas, but we are at the start. At the start, we have definitely not reached our targets yet.
Yeah, but that was interesting, and also part of my discussion with Volker Leonhardt when I joined your headquarters in this beautiful town, Zofingen, early in October. It was a personal meeting, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, exactly. One of the few personal meetings.
Because we figured out you have in your back, there is that word connected, and we talked about connectivity. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that on the product side, you are the connectivity reached already 100%, and it's not only about controlling your own processes; it's also setting up a communication with all the from finishing to print to pre-media and so on. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting, and I think the same approach you realized already in that area. You can also switch to getting the better connectivity to your customers, because it's exactly the same. And but the tricky thing is, compared to traditional communication and marketing, it was dedicated to the what can we do and how we do it. Mm-hmm. And with social media and this interactivity, it's all about the why, and the why is related to the benefit for the customer. Yeah. And the most important opportunity with social media is you are able to listen, because you get the feedback immediately. If you like it or not, you get it. Yeah, exactly. And then it's all about monitoring and having an ongoing conversation. And I think the deep understanding of connectivity is already there at Müller Martini. It's really
I think we have made a lot of
last years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so maybe it's a good time and a good starting point, because when you are alone, when you are something like a first mover in changing communication behaviors, that's a lot of work. And I think there has COVID a positive influence because we have no alternatives.
That's absolutely
and so it's good
true,
for
yeah.
both sides, to change behavior.
Yes, exactly. And we need to accept and take into account that we have different customers, different ways of thinking. So we need to find the right way to approach all these different segments of our customers. Yeah. But of course, and that's also, that's definitely a direction we're taking. So have more focus on the various electronic communication channels.
Yeah, and
which of course you need to be faster. If customer interacts with you, you need to give a reaction by yourself right away. So as I mentioned before in the intro, everything is become more agile, more also faster. Customers, if he sees something from us on LinkedIn and asks a question, he doesn't wait for the answer for a week.
Yeah,
I can tell you in that perspective, it's quite funny because I read an article in the American magazine Wired, and I don't know how you feel, but I sometimes feel a little annoyed because when you write an email to Americans, sometimes they don't really answer so fast. Mm-hmm. But the airliners in the US, they have now a majority of the support. I mean, customer support is on Twitter, because Twitter is a media. So if you are in the airport and you can't get on a plane, Twitter is something that the airlines really don't like it to be too much. So they respond immediately.
Yes, and mostly it's not positive messages. So
that's true.
In favor of the airlines.
The reason why I was asking about the current customers was because I think yesterday Andreas and I spoke. I can't remember who mentioned that, but there's also a generational issue that if you look at some of the maybe older generations of PSPs, maybe they like still to come to the trade show because that's been part of their legacy, right? And the young ones, they are maybe, or the second generation or third generation printers, they are maybe like, okay, this is a business. We need to get it done with ASAP. We need to figure out what's right and wrong. And therefore, social media for newer printers are way. I mean, we spoke about Ulrich Schätzl from Schätzl Print in Motion before we turned on the broadcast, and he is a great example of I think a lot of people like to use him as an example because he converted his conventional printing company to essentially a very smart factory using all the latest equipment, and along that also your book lines, right?
Correct. Yes.
And I think he's a great example because I think that age-wise he's maybe just in the middle, but he's a second generation. His father operated a conventional printing company, and I have not looked into his number, but everybody that talks about Schätzl is always like, he is the smart kid on the block, right?
Definitely, yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have seen at many of our long-term customers, there were generational changes in the leadership over the past few years. And nowadays, we very often talk to people in their 30s, something like that, which have a different approach to all these different communication channels, of course. And we need to take that into account. So those who really think I don't need internet, I don't need LinkedIn and so on, it's less and less. We should not, of course, completely neglect them. That would be a wrong approach, but we need to acknowledge that more and more of our customers are active themselves on social channels and also follow up our activities on these channels.
So let's revert a little bit to something that is of my interest. When you first got the information that for example, Drupa was cancelled, or first it was postponed and then later cancelled, did that have a huge influence on your communication, like really impact on your business, or do you think it was more related to the COVID?
It was more related to the COVID, I would say. I mean, we anticipated the cancellation of Drupa somehow. I mean, we reduced our booth area already pretty much after the postponement, so we would have had a completely different presence at Drupa 21 if it had taken place. But basically triggered through COVID, we saw the need to change, to do some adjustments in our communication channel. So it was not so much Drupa reflected.
Okay.
Of course, the complete cancellation now increases the need
to find different ways, alternatives.
Ways, yes. However, I mean, next year we will be active in China Print, which will be a physical event. Books now, you never know.
You have to be very cautious what you say, right?
These days you need to be careful, yeah. So there we will have equipment installed. So as what I said before, that I see this the future. On one side, to have an online virtual showroom. On the other hand, still be present and have a presence at the key trade shows in the world.
How easy / difficult has it been to actually do a virtual demo room? Has it been a walk in the park, or has it been difficult to make that user experience good?
It is difficult. This is challenging. I mean, one side is the technical requirements you need to meet. So you need to set up all the 3D data and so on, and set up a proper concept in the end. So we invested more hours than we originally thought it would be.
Like always, right?
Which is not surprising, exactly. And also we are, with respect to the virtual showroom, we are at a starting point. We have some content, but we can add much more and also attractive content. Now it is pretty much just the standard, like short presentations, data sheets, general information about the exhibits, also about the machines and our services. But we can do much more. So that's something that will evolve now over the coming month, and really make it a great user experience.
And the idea behind that is to have this virtual presence ongoing permanently, or is it dedicated to a certain time frame, let's say from 15 to 20 or January, whatever?
For the moment, it's open end. So I think from Printing-expo it's for 1 year now, and but we do not have a fixed deadline for our virtual showroom. And no matter what how it goes on with Printing-expo, we could also use the virtual showroom just as a Müller Martini virtual showroom, basically.
Ah, okay, okay. So that is not necessarily related to the expo. Okay.
But of course, at the moment, Printing-expo is the entry point. That's clear.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So when you say about this, because I mean, one thing is that I congratulate you on being a first mover, because I think that when you look at it from a user's perspective, from an outside perspective, there's not so many exhibitors here in the first version of Printing-expo. At least what I saw from it when I have been. I must say that, you know, I also said that yesterday to Dan Bronson, who have a competitive 3D show from the packaging world, right? And I must say that from a Mac user's perspective, I don't think it's been very convincing, the 3D experience in itself. So when I was curious talking to you, it was also like, how have the reactions been from the visitors you have had? One thing is that you can go in there, and another thing, but do you get the interaction that you expect?
There are actually pretty few feedbacks. We are currently having this week some feedback rounds internally with some of our sales folks, so to get their impression. Of course, we appreciate feedback because we want to become better. We want to, as I said, we want to make it a great customer experience.
Yeah.
of course, it needs to be in cooperation with Printing-expo. So there are probably some limits, what can be done and what not. But it's important for us, as it is a new approach, something we never did before. It's important for us to really see what works, what is not so appreciated by the visitors, and constantly improve.
But I like that you're doing it. I like also Wayne and his team for setting up the platform and doing something, because I mean, when the day is over, if we want to be successful in the printing industry, we need to do something, and that is why I have been so focused on the needs of the customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if the need, I mean, because of the COVID-19 or because of the cancellation of trade shows, that doesn't change the fact that customers need to know, right? They need information.
You need to convey the information in another way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is one way, and it sounds to me that you have multiple ways of trying to engage with your customers electronically, still physically, but also one-on-one demonstrations from your experienced demo center. So I think that what puts things in perspective is basically that a lot of the communication that we do to customers still needs to take place, and we find our ways regardless of the trade shows, regardless of the COVID, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we need to find our ways because we have something to tell, and we want to make sure that it's heard by the customers or by customers.
Yeah.
So, and of course, much of what we are doing, it's a bit try and find out what works. Yeah, it is not. We have not performed large analysis and so on. So we just say, oh, that looks interesting, that looks appealing, that might be a good channel for us. So let's try it. And then while we go along this path, improve it. And if we see that something doesn't work, we can skip it again. So
of course, that is the beauty of electronic things, right, as well.
And yeah, not so sophisticated approach, I would say.
One question is that you said you branded your own virtual showroom via that platform. Is it part of your website, or do you have to reference to their platform? How does that work?
At the moment, it is. We reference to Printing-expo. Of course, it has been established together with them, so it is nothing fair that it goes through Printing-expo, but technical wise, we can also use it as our virtual showroom without the visitor seeing Printing-expo.
Yeah, I'm just asking because I always love this integrated approach in communication, and when you have to reference to a different platform, how can you synchronize this with your website activities? Normally in the past you would have said if something is new, just you have your landing page branded by Müller Martini, and then you got your microsite.
Yeah.
Is it working a little bit like that?
It's working like that, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have also the landing page approach concept, so there you can register them directly for only our showroom, yes.
Yeah.
We are on almost in the final of the round of questions here. Adrian, I have actually one more question that is maybe you can answer it, maybe, but since you have been in different apartments of Müller Martini, and I take that you know quite a lot of how the operation works. Do you think that the next step of interaction with your customers could also be learning from them, so it will be like a two-way street where you get requests for specific you send out ideas before you produce. I mean, because if you look at some of the like Kickstarter, if you look at some of the new trends in how you develop this products, it can be iterations where you involve the user more in what they need. And I was just thinking, do you have those considerations as well?
That's of course thoughts we're having. Yes, so I think there are several steps to take. We are now in the step where we have the customers try to engage customers through different channels. they are already more interactive than what we had in the past, or more bi-directional than what we had in the past. But of course, we can do much more in really get a real communication with customers. I think the community building, which has just been mentioned, is one element in this. So we establish communities for specific areas where customers also can communicate, not only with us, but also within each other. And share experiences, share our know-how, and this way, I would say we can have the ear closer to the needs of the customer, even closer than we have today, and bring this into the development of new solutions.
Let that be the last words of today's session. Adrian Mayr, Müller Martini, it was great to meet you here. Thank you very much. Also to you, Andreas, for your insights and your comments.
Thank you.
That was great.
Very, very interesting.
Oh yes, it was interesting. Yeah,
and, I have to say you are really ahead, not only in the finishing sector.
Yeah, that's
it's
great.
It's all about getting the right mindset, and I think you guys got the right mindset, and the rest is trial and error. Nobody knows how the future will be.
Exactly.
But we have to be engaged. So
yeah. I can't help thinking about when you say trial and error. I mean, we have just seen SpaceX launching their SN8, right? And they keep these $1 billion projects as trial and error. So I think we can do our trial and errors in online communities.
Perfect last word. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks so much for having this conversation with you. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, I hope. That could be nice.
And Happy New Year to you and all the audience.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
We as an industry have a challenge convincing the print service providers and the industry to back to the trade shows.
I think this is our absolute responsibility to show the universe of print, different business models, how to probably partner and take the win-wins of every partnership. And this is, I think, a big tendency observed not only on the visitor side, but as well on the supplier side.
Really a one-roof approach to a print expo or printing expo. Trying to put all technologies together and all segments of the market together in one spot.
Drupa was cancelled last week, so I think a lot of vendors, a lot of exhibitors, a lot of media, a lot of people, attendees are all thinking about what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?
We will be back tomorrow and show you more great things.
How has the show been for you guys? It's been absolutely fantastic. The foot traffic has been amazing. The people that have come are actual real buyers. So many times you get the tire kickers and this has been qualified people coming through, a great volume of them, and really we're doing fantastic in the booth.
Would you say that your success is a mirror of how the industry is developing right now?
Absolutely.
We needed to be part of the event because it's all about automation from software, printing, and finishing equipment perspective. It is a must-attend event. In the industry, it's the only place where you can see all of this automated work together in the same place.